Hello everybody and welcome to the video. So when you get to a certain point in this non-dual path and maybe you're convinced that everything is consciousness, clearly, I can see it now, is obvious to me, we get some problems, some sticking points. So we think, well, I'm conscious, clearly, everything is this, it's me, I know that now, but are you conscious? We've been using the dream analogy a lot, and so in my dream, the other little characters are not conscious themselves, unless they actually have little bubbles of consciousness inside my dream consciousness, and they're also conscious, but somehow it's got like Russian dolls of consciousness going in and in and in within the dream. Is that what's happening in the waking world too? Is there my bubble of consciousness and then their bubbles of consciousness, but then am I inside a bubble of consciousness which is inside their bubble of consciousness? It gets complicated, and we have the problem of solipsism for this. I don't know if you're conscious, so I'm just going to say this is all my mind and generated by me. We also have other problems, like why, if everything's consciousness, why don't I know what's going on in the Andromeda galaxy, or on the dark side of the moon, or how much money there is down the back of my sofa? If everything's consciousness, why don't I know it? It's my consciousness, it's not somebody else's. We've decided that. It's non-dual. There's only I'm one without a second. Now, and another problem is I'm this consciousness. We've decided I'm a spiritual seeker, and I'm going to go from this consciousness, this limited consciousness, full of limitations and vulnerability, to the big global consciousness, the big one. And I'm going to understand everything and see everything and be at peace, because I'll be basically the all-knowing God. And that is a problem too, because that is... And all of these are using a container metaphor. So this idea that my consciousness is a container and I need to become the big consciousness. Or in my mind, there is a container for consciousness, and you have your own little container for consciousness. Or in my consciousness, I don't know what's going on the other side of the galaxy. It's outside my container of consciousness. So all this comes from this problem of the container, this metaphor, which we take from the world. It's not in your true nature. Your true nature is Sat Chit Ananda. It's existence itself, it's consciousness, and it is bliss. It's love, truth, beauty, all of that. It's not boxes. There's no apples and there's no boxes. But the phenomenal world, the world out there, the world where our bodies evolved in, are full of containers. Dogs dig holes. It's a container, and they put bones in. Primitive man probably had little ledges and little crevices where he kept things for later. Like criminals in the prison, they have shivs hidden down in the playground. It's probably not called a playground for prisoners, but that they can get at any point. These hidden containers. And then we developed, this is going to be an anthropology lesson, then we developed, and a big stage of development of, they say, is when we actually started carrying our containers with us. So when we started carrying ostrich eggs around with things inside, or gourds, or started weaving baskets, and all of these things became evolved in the world for us. And it started influences how we thought. Before, we probably had this very naive, realist idea that the world is just there and we're in it, and we just walk around in it. There is no inside and outside. It's just that is what it is. But when with René Descartes and mind-body dualism, so you have the mind inside you, and outside is matter and the world, and we don't really know what's out there. And other people like Kant, we can't know what is outside our minds, all of these became more serious and is the main metaphor that the neuroscience is built on. Everything's going on inside our brain, inside this, the consciousness that's in there. Now, containers are everywhere. We have, baskets and buckets and cups and buses and hotels, bathrooms, fridges. It's full of the world. It's not unnatural that we think, well, okay, so consciousness, I've discovered that it's all consciousness, so it must be a container, because everything's containers, is it not? But there are no boundaries to consciousness. And the problem is, look, if we do it now, so if I say, look for any edges, any boundaries to your consciousness, to your awareness. Can you find any boundaries? Certainly you can't find one inside and outside. So where are my thoughts? They're kind of everywhere. I don't really know. But they're not just inside my head. They're out there somewhere. As well as emotions. It's kind of in front of me, or I don't really know. Non-spatial, possibly. But there is a boundary to my consciousness that I can find, and that is just what's outside it. Clearly it's restricted because I don't know what's outside my consciousness, but that's only because you're conditioned to use this metaphor of consciousness being a container. And the problem of what's outside your consciousness is just because you're using that model. There's this story about there was an old lady. What was it? There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed a fly. Perhaps she'll die. Then she swallowed a spider to catch the fly, and it wriggled and wriggled and wriggled inside her. I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Perhaps she'll die. Then she swallows the cat to catch the spider, and then the dog to catch the cat. And then she finally swallows a horse. She's dead, of course. So all of this, sometimes our non-dual explanations or philosophical inquiries begin to create these really complex ideas around the fact that consciousness is a container. For example, to be accepted, Bernardo Kastrup, with his analytic idealism, he tries to build a model which is acceptable to modern people. And for that reason, he needs to include this container metaphor that we are dissociated from the big mind, and it's an interface that we see. Or Donald Hoffman, it could be a desktop and representing something outside consciousness. All this comes from this initial assumption, which we can't find any evidence for. We can't find the evidence, and when we look for evidence, we get this hinting, this sensation, but of course, in my direct experience, there's nothing outside, and there's no barrier, but that's because I'm just looking inside it. What about outside it? But that's because of this. But consciousness isn't like that. Consciousness, or awareness, is the thing which everything appears to. Containers appear to consciousness. All these ideas appear to consciousness. Consciousness itself cannot be contained by anything. We look more into the body as in this direct path, and we see that body is luminous awareness, arising awareness. The hand is nothing more than colors and sensations, and colors cannot contain awareness. Colors cannot contain the image of your head, cannot contain awareness inside a color. What power color would have if it could contain your awareness? So no, awareness is just that which is necessary for experience. We do have it, though, in religious and spiritual teachings. So Advaita Vedanta has this idea that there's different shells of the body, the gross body, the subtle body, and there are parts of the mind where your karma is kept and where your tendencies are kept and your memories are hidden in another part. And it's common for us to think this way. So we think, especially if you're interested in psychology and doing, work, shadow work and things like that, you go, well, what's in there in my subconscious that I'm not aware of? And you can work with it. You can work within that model to achieve certain results. And you can work within this model, and this model, the model of not having any boundaries to consciousness, not having any containers of consciousness. The idea is eventually you'll let go of that model. And eventually all models will be let go of on that path. But this other path, psychology, memories, hidden traumatic events, that's something that you can look at if you want. It's just different levels of reality. So go into it if you like. Advaita Vedanta has this idea that there's all these parts that are hiding you, your memories and your tendencies, but that's only on the transactional level. They say on the ultimate level, there is nothing. You cannot conceptualize consciousness. It is the thing which has no attributes. The only attribute it has is that it's free of attributes. So in this way, we can get past the problems that arise, the questions that we get when we're on this non-dual path. Now, for example, I'm going to give another model to get over the consciousness as a container model. So why can't I see your thoughts? Well, the mind is subtle and can reflect consciousness. So in the same way that a mirror can reflect your image and a book can't, the mind, because of its subtle nature, reflects consciousness. Now, my consciousness, my mind, is I see the reflection of the mind, reflection of all the thoughts and all that, and I feel that it's almost contained because I'm seeing this nexus, this link of things together. It's a bit like, as I've used before, you have clay pots on the ground full of water and the sun shining above. Now the sun is reflected in each pot, and the reflection in the pot is the reflection within the mind. And as the sun looks down on that little reflection, it feels that is its consciousness. That is the consciousness it feels, and it's kind of limited within that pot. But in fact, there is no limitation to the sun. There's no borders to the sun light. Well, there are borders to the sun, but it's a metaphor. So in that way, you see somebody, they also have a mind that is reflecting consciousness. It's not the ultimate reality, but it's better than imagining that my consciousness is in here, and I need to expand my consciousness to become the bigger consciousness. On the question of why can't I see in the Andromeda galaxy, well, consciousness is just shining. It's just there and open and accepts anything that's within it. But if you don't have the tools to see what's on the other side of the galaxy, you don't have a telescope, then you won't know. But when you have a telescope, and the consciousness will shine on it, and the consciousness will see what's on the other side of the galaxy. This idea of this metaphor of a container, which is used in spirituality and psychology and throughout the world in our daily life, holds us back when we're trying to make more advanced progress in Advaita Vedanta, in this direct path in non-duality. And so we can let go of it. For the purpose of this, for your everyday life, yes, you can still carry water in buckets. You don't say, well, containers don't exist. Yes, they do in the phenomenal world on this kind of level of truth. Like Harry Potter exists in the books, he makes billions of dollars in the world, but he's not even real. So even though something which is not real can have a real effect. And that's in the same way that models, even though they're not real, can have a real effect, and we can use them for different things. So, but going back, consciousness is not a container. If you think that way, you'll get a whole load of confusing results and start wondering whether, am I alone is, am I the only person here in my mind? It's not your mind. You are also appearing to consciousness just like everyone else is. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.